Shalom. Hey, this is Pastor Steve. Welcome to the instructional video on how to do Passover. And I'm here to help you understand all the parts of a Hebrew Christian Passover. I want to explain that because what we're sending out to all of our church family is an opportunity to bring together really an understanding of an amazing tradition called Passover, which we've celebrated in our church for over 30 years, and at the same time understand the application that it has to us as believers in the Messiah, Jesus. And so that's important that we understand, because from this amazing event, Jesus, our Messiah, instituted communion. So what you're going to need to do is download or print off a copy of your Haggadah. And when you look at your Haggadah and you open it up, it'll bring a welcome to our Seder. Now, let's explain something. Seder is the Hebrew word for order. So there is an order to this Passover. Haggadah in the Hebrew means to retell the story. And so we're actually going through the story of Exodus chapter 12 and the events of Israel in their deliverance from bondage in Egypt over Pharaoh. And so when you look at this, you'll see the order of service. It will talk about the scriptures that you can read or study in preparation for this. So all of that's there for you. Now, let me walk through some of the pieces here so you'll understand these are all the parts that you will need for your Passover Seder. First of all, you'll notice 4 cups. Throughout this event, 4s are a very important number because there'll be 4 cups, there's 4 questions, there are 4 sons. You'll see a lot of connection there. These 4 cups each have a meaning. It's written down for you. You'll want to go ahead and read and review the cup of sanctification, which is number 1. Then you have the second cup, which is the cup of judgment. Then you have the third cup, which is the cup of redemption. And then finally you have the 4th cup, which is the cup of praise. Each one of these have tremendous significance as you walk through the Seder service. Now, you'll notice I put up here a Seder plate. The Seder plate's an important part, usually goes kind of in the middle of the table, but everyone should have a mini Seder plate. So everyone should have the opportunity to share in the elements, so that's something you want to plan for. The Seder plate has 6 basic elements, and there's actually 6 spots for these different parts that I'm going to share with you in a moment. Now, you might think, I don't have a Seder plate. Yes, you do. It's called a dinner plate. And so that's all you need, a paper plate. And what you could do, if you have like an older plate, get a permanent marker and just write the 6 and draw 6 circles. I mean, you are creative people. You can do this. So you really don't have to have one of these in order to do this and have a great time. Now, let me explain the parts to you. Now, there is, for example, there'll be salt water. I have this here. There is hard-boiled or roasted egg. Either one's fine. There is what's called charasit, which is a great mixture of honey and nuts and apple and grape juice and some spices. There is more, or bitter herb, which is a horseradish, basically. And then there is parsley, right? Parsley, which is just a wonderful addition to, right, any meal. And then the 6th item, which is a shank bone of a lamb. Now, you might think, great, where do I get a shank bone of a lamb? Don't worry about it, because we have instruction for a paper cutout. And that'll work just fine, because you don't have to eat that bone, so it'll work perfect. Now, what's going to happen is, in a moment, we're going to begin the ceremony. Now, you'll notice I'm wearing a kippah. Once again, you might be wondering, oh no, I don't have a kippah. What am I going to do? Now, this is for the men, not for the women, because for men, we're supposed to wear a covering over our head, which signifies the covering of God. And I understand you may not have a kippah, but you know what? You may have a cowboy hat. You go ahead and put that cowboy hat on, and you are good to go, because you are covered. Now, if that doesn't work, the other option, and I'll take my kippah off here for a second, we just got done with winter. So you know what? This works. Go ahead and put your hat on, and you are now covered. We're ready to go. Okay, and you're thinking, okay, another option. I would imagine most everyone has a baseball cap, right? Well, here's the secret. Put it on backwards. Because if you do it backwards, you know what? It looks like a kippah. There you go, and you're covered. Now, well, we got a lot of fishermen, I know that, and you know what? Your fishing hat works perfect. So there you go. You have lots of options here, so please feel free. And if you have no hats, which I can't imagine, but if you don't, you know what? It's okay to go ahead and wear nothing. It really isn't. I suppose if you had to, you could cut out a little piece of paper and put it on top of your head with some tape. So we are now covered. We're ready to go. So the first thing that begins as you're kind of ready to do this is you got to remove the leaven. This is fun. This is a good part. So what would happen is my mom or my grandmother, wherever we were, would take matzah and would crumble it up, right? And you just do that in your hand like this and get it really super small, because you'll see in a moment that's what makes it kind of fun and a challenge. And then she would go throughout the house and hide it in certain spots. And then I would get a flashlight like this. And my job was, in preparation, we have to get rid of all the leaven in the house. So I would turn the light on and I would be searching and I would go, oh, leaven, we have to get rid of that leaven. So here's the hard part. I was given a feather and a spoon. This is a wooden spoon in order to get rid of the leaven. Now, again, you can improvise, lots of options here, but the idea is to pick up that leaven into the feather, and you have to get it all. So that is quite a challenge, and there you go, I got most of it. And then you go ahead and you put it outside, because you want to signify the fact that all the leaven, all the sin, remember leaven in Scripture talks about sin. Now all the sin has been removed. And so just a fun opportunity to share, and kids will love this. This will be great. And if you do this well, this could take some time, and I know they'll enjoy it. Now, the next thing that's going to happen, because you've gotten rid of the leaven, now you want to go ahead and light the candles. Now, we have an instructional video that Cantor Deanna put together. So I'm not going to go through all the steps, because I want you to watch her, and she'll show you exactly how to do it. But I'm simply going to light the candles. And you could even just play her video while doing this, and she's kind of then doing it for you, right? And then go ahead and say the prayer. After you've done that, it becomes important that you go ahead and say the blessing for your children. So if you have children there's a blessing for the sons, for the daughters, and both. So what you're going to do is, mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, you're going to put your hands on your kids, your grandkids, and you're going to bless them. Now you're thinking, I don't have any kids. It's okay. You still can bless them. Let me encourage you to go ahead and speak blessing over your children. Even if they are adult children, say blessing over them, and especially your grandchildren. Speak of them by name. This is part of the Passover. Okay, so we have gotten rid of the leaven, we've lit the candles, we blessed the kids. Here we go. Because we have the matzah holder, matzah tash, or achad. Now, this is interesting because this has 3 compartments in it, and each compartment has matzah. Now, it's interesting because for us, we already can kind of imagine, what does this mean? 3 in 1, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's interesting that in the ceremony, it's the middle piece that will be broken in half. Half will be hidden away. The other half will be used later in our service. And so there's tremendous symbolism for us who are believers in the Messiah. So that is part of what we're doing. Now, again, I want to point out, matzah is an important part. You'll notice that we talked about matzah. So when you're looking at this, and you can get this at every store in town right now. It is all over the place. And so we have matzah, and it's important you take a moment and examine matzah. A great instructional tool, especially to the kids, because if you do this and put light behind it, you can see the holes, and you can see the stripes. And the symbolism, again, is very powerful, because matzah is unleavened bread, no leaven, sinless. Think about Jesus, the Messiah. He's sinless. By his stripes we are healed. He was pierced for our transgressions, for our sins. And so contained within a single matzah is a story in itself of who Jesus is. And you can share that with your kids. You can talk about that with each other. So you can begin to see the power for us as Hebrew Christians, what matzah says. Now, grape juice obviously is an important piece, and you can see I've already filled the cups. This is kosher grape juice. You can get kosher grape juice. You could certainly use really any grape juice is fine. If you don't have grape juice, any juice will work. So I just want to encourage you in that. A lot of people might use, the tradition is Manischewitz wine, and it's a very sweet wine, and it's something that can also be used that you can pick up if you want to do that. But those are some of the traditional things. In addition to that, you saw the Seder plate. We also have another couple plates here, and you'll notice Elijah's place. Now, this is an important part of the service because you need to set up a place setting for Elijah. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, no one sits here. This is for Elijah. You'll notice I have a cup that says Elijah. You're thinking, I don't have an Elijah cup. Yes, you do. So you simply take a glass and you take a marker and you write Elijah on it. Now you have an Elijah cup and you're good to go. I have a bowl with water in it. You'll see in a moment this is important. You'll need a bowl because you're going to wash your hands at least twice during the Seder. And I have a linen cloth by which I can dry my hands, which is important. And then I have another basically paper towel that's white that will also be a part of the service. You'll need that. So these are all the pieces to what we're going to be sharing. All right, let's begin. When you go to the first cup of blessing, which is the Kiddush cup, you're going to now have the first cup filled, and you're going to read a blessing, and then following that blessing, you're going to drink from this cup. So I'm not going to do this now, but you'll do this in your Seder service. After you have that first cup, now you wash your hands. Now, in washing, we know washing hands are very important, right? So we're all learning to do that. So you go ahead, do that. And remember, you need to rub your hands for 20 seconds. So let's make sure you do that. And as you're talking to each other, you make sure everything is very clean. And then you dry your hands off. And now you have done it's really a ceremonial washing of hands. Hopefully you've already washed your hands. So now we have the next part, which is where you're going to eat parsley. So parsley is a part of, and you'll read more about it, it's an important part because it symbolizes springtime, which is upon us now. And it's going to, especially right now, I was thinking, given what we're going through at this time, this is hope. This reminds us there's hope. It also reminds us of the hyssop that was used to dip into the lamb's blood and put over the doorpost. Now, there's a practical purpose behind this too, because in eating parsley, you may already know this, parsley is a breath mint. And so by taking a piece of parsley and eating it, now you are doing a service to all those around the table, because now you're going to have much better breath. At this point now, you're going to uncover the matzah holder. And can I also say, if you don't have a holder like this, it's okay. 4 paper towels would work, and so you can utilize that. So you have 3 sections to it, and you're going to take out your matzah, and then you're going to break it, and so you're going to have 2 pieces. And so what you're now going to do is put half back into the holder, and the other half now you're going to use, and you're going to put this into the paper towel like this, and you're going to wrap it up. And now this is now known as the afikomen. The afikomen is then hid away somewhere in the house, because later in the Seder service, we'll talk about you're going to let the kids or the adults, it doesn't matter, go find the afikomen. And so when you find it, of course, you got to have a reward. So whoever finds the afikomen then has to bring it out, and so you got to prepare ahead of time, have a reward. In my home, when I grew up, when we were doing it with my grandma and my grandpa, Grandpa Spike, that was his nickname, Grandpa Spike, he always had a reward of a silver dollar. Now, he was a coin collector, so these weren't just any old silver dollar. These were collectible silver dollars. And so there were usually 6 to 8 cousins, these all kids, and we would go, okay, go find the afikomen, and there would be a race. Now, you should know, Pastor Steve at that time was the youngest and the smallest. I rarely found the afikomen because my cousins would push me out of the way, and they would get the silver coin. But you should know, I grew up and got a little bit bigger and was able then to push them out of the way, and I found the afikomen. It was a fun event. It was really a good time, and I want to encourage you to think about, you can just do a little candy bar, you can do a lot of different things that you can do that's just simple and fun. So now you're going to be reading the story of the Exodus, and again, all that's in the Haggadah. Now we're going to get following that story. You're going to fill the second cup. Not going to drink it, you're just going to fill it. It'll be ready to go. And you could actually fill all 4 of the cups if you wanted to be ready as the leader of the ceremony. But everyone else then would fill their cup because everyone has a cup of grape juice. Then you would go ahead and walk through the 4 questions and then the 4 answers. And very interesting. And then you get into another 4 where you address the 4 sons. This was another favorite part of mine because this is the part where all the kids are reading, right? This is where everyone enjoys reading. And I always like the 4 sons because there's the wise son, the wicked son, the simple son, and the son who doesn't know what to ask. So there's 2 sons you don't really want to be. One is the wicked son or the son who does not know what to ask. I was usually picked as the son who does not know what to ask because I was the youngest. And so that was always my place. And I could always look forward to being teased about, the one who doesn't know what to ask. But you should know if you're picked to read that, you know that I did that and I'm still okay. So you'll go through this, great reading, great discussion that can take place if you so choose. As you complete and read this story, it will remind you of the story of Joseph. You're going to look at a lot of very important information that will lead to understanding the 10 plagues. The 10 plagues are very important because in the process of doing this, you're going to take that second cup and you're going to name the plagues one at a time. As you name them, you're going to take a spoon with your second cup of grape juice and you're going to dip your spoon in and then drop 1 drop of grape juice as you repeat each name of the plague. So, for example, the first one would be blood. So you drop it down, blood. Then the next one is frogs, and then you do frogs. And then lice, and you keep going till you get through all 10. And kind of fun to do that. It's a reminder of, leads to the really important last plague, which was the slaying of the firstborn, that would begin to bring release and freedom. And again, we understand the connection of that because it was Jesus who was sacrificed for our lives. He was the Messiah, and that's why you and I have death that passes over, and we have the hope of eternity that we look forward to. My favorite song then takes place called Dayenu. Dayenu is an amazing song, which means it would have been enough for us. So when you think about all the things that God has done for us, we think, if he just did one of these things, it would have been enough for us. So for example, if he had only brought us out of Egypt, but had not punished the Egyptians, Dayenu, you're saying it would have been enough. Now, there's a number of them here. We haven't given all of them to you. If you want all of them, you should know there's 80 verses to this. And so that might take a while. In my years of doing Passover, we never did all 80. We would pick and choose. But certainly you can do that. So as we go through this, and we've written a few extra in here to help really connect us to Jesus as the Messiah and what he did. Now, following that is the explanation of what's known as the 3 essentials. And the 3 essentials are, we look at the 3 essentials, and we're going to look at 3 really critical pieces that are important to our Seder. And so you'll be looking at the matzah again and understanding that, which we've explained. You'll be looking at the horseradish, which we, again, will understand a little bit more of the importance of it and the reminder that that symbolizes. And then you'll be looking at the shank bone. And so you'll be looking at 3 very important parts of what we know as the 3 essentials. Following that, you're going to go into the reading of Psalm 113, 114, an important part that connects all of this together. And then you're going to move to the second cup where you'll say a blessing. And again, when you say the blessing, everyone raises their cup. And after the blessing, then you go ahead and drink the cup. Now, we come to the next place where you're getting ready to distribute more of the elements. So once again, you need to wash your hands. So we've already talked about that. You'll wash your hands, and now you're going to distribute all of the pieces. So all of these things now are going to become a part of what you're going to do. You're going to walk through eating pieces of matzah. You'll be breaking off, and I'd encourage you to keep them fairly small because you got to share with all the people around the table. And you'll be eating matzah together. You'll be eating matzah dipped in the horseradish. Now, this is again a reminder, an important reminder of really the bitterness of what took place in the bondage of Israel. And we're reminded of this. And so one of the things that we used to do in my family is, especially my Uncle Jack, my Uncle Jack and I would have a contest. Who could put the most horseradish on the smallest piece of matzah and not cry? Because the idea is this is to bring tears. And so you can have fun with that. Again, be careful. Some people are a little sensitive to horseradish, but the horseradish we have here, this is kosher horseradish that we bought at Safeways. I'm going to test it out, see if it's very strong. It's nice, not strong. I think you'll be fine. My grandmother used to make beet horseradish. It's very strong horseradish, and she would put beet juice in it to cool it down a little bit. And that's why, and so it was amazing. That guaranteed to bring tears to your eyes. Following that, you're going to make what's called the Hillel sandwich. And again, it's explained there. I'm not going to go into a lot of details. You'll read about it, but once again, you're going to take some of this horseradish, and then the cherosit, which we talked about, the cherosit mixture. And you got to use your imagination a little bit, because when you put the two together and you make a sandwich, because you have matzah on either side, you imagine this is a brick with mortar between it. And what now takes place is really the bittersweet. Because in our times of troubles, especially today, it's bittersweet. We recognize that there are difficult times, but there are also sweet times. And so we learn to realize, even in Israel, when there were bitter times, there still was sweet. And so we're reminded of that combination. And then you eat your sandwich, the Hillel sandwich. And you can taste the sweetness of the honey, at the same time the bitterness of the horseradish. So now you should know you're getting close to the meal. So when all this is happening, you should start getting excited. The meal is almost there. And at this point, the meal, following this, and you have a little more reading, then you would go ahead. The meal is brought out. Here's the thing. We usually pray before the meal. In this case, you pray after the meal. So make sure you don't make that mistake, because it may seem a little odd to you that we should pray first. Well, no, you're going to pray afterwards. You're going to pray for God's provision. Remember, everything about the Passover is you have to do this in haste. And so you got to get that meal done. And of course, everyone's probably hungry, ready to have that meal. And you can think, okay, we'll eat and then we'll have the blessing afterwards, is what you'll do. So the meal is served and everyone's going to enjoy a meal. And then following that is that point where, remember, we talked about, now you're going to cut the kids loose and go find that afikomen. So you're ready to go. The kids are ready to kind of run around a little bit. That'll be a fun time. Maybe the adults are ready to run around a little bit, so they can go look for it as well. So you're going to have a great time, and and again, there's explanation, and you're going to read that in the Haggadah, and you'll begin, and then you're going to say the blessing. So when you bring the afikomen back, then you're going to come to Psalm 126, and then you're going to bless the meal. You're going to continue to move forward into what you would look at as the second half of the Passover Seder. And as you move to that, now you're going to be receiving the third cup. Remember, the third cup's important. This was the cup. Remember, when Jesus brought communion, he said, "This is my blood." We brought the afikomen out, and this would have been at this point just before the cup, Jesus would have distributed, again, because the matzah was broken, he would have distributed the piece of matzah to the disciples. And remember, he said, "This is my body." So again, the connection you begin to see. And so you would read about the third cup, and then you would drink the third cup. You would receive that together. A lot of important information there that you'll be reading. And again, we'll make the connection for you to see both how the Hebrew Scriptures and the New Testament kind of comes together. Following that, you are now going to look at Elijah's place. So we have Elijah's cup. We have the place setting that we have hoped Elijah would show up. He hasn't, apparently. And so now what would happen is the leader of the Passover would ask one of the children to go to the front door, open the front door, and double check, is Elijah waiting to come in? Once again, being the youngest, I was the one sent to the door to go check the front door and see if Elijah was there. You should know that in all the years of doing Passover with my family, Elijah was not there. Now, today I know why, because Jesus has already come. And so there's no reason, obviously, for this. And you and I expect the second coming, the return of Jesus. But it's still fun to do. One time we did this. I was doing a Passover Seder with a large group in a gym, at a school gym. There was about 300 of us. And I asked one of the young kids to do what I used to do. Hey, go through the gym doors and go see if Elijah's there. And so he kind of went out, and he was just a good-natured kid, and went through the doors, and all of a sudden he came busting through the doors, eyes as big as they can be, and I could hear him, "I found Elijah!" And we're all like, what's going on? And right behind him was the school janitor. So he found somebody. It was Elijah, but we were all laughing. That was a great moment that took place. So you will go ahead and get a chance to look at this. That will lead to Hallel, the Psalms of Praise. This is scripture that you're now reading from the Psalms that are powerful. And I would encourage you to take turns reading them. Just hearing the word, especially at this time, is so encouraging. And the Psalms that are chosen here are ones of great encouragement, of hope, of what we can expect. Now, following that, we come to the fourth cup. This is called the cup of praise. And then this is brought to the table as an opportunity to look forward to what's going to happen. So we receive this cup with a blessing of looking forward. We all have hope because we have something to look forward to. And so following that, we are actually coming to the end of our Passover Seder, where we all declare together, next year in Jerusalem. We have completed our Passover Seder. We've celebrated, we've learned, and we've enjoyed an amazing family time. Shalom. Enjoy Passover.